Elections is maybe the most important point in our democracies in the sense of, let's say, the expression of this democracy in action. And that's why it's also a vulnerable one, because it can be targeted. And we have seen this in the past in many, many different places and many different countries, in different forms, however. And therefore, it is really imperative for all of us to make sure that these processes are safeguarded and properly protected. We need to understand what the risks are. The risks of interference in elections can be either a very direct form, for example, interference on the content, on the candidates, on the political parties that are there. But it can also be a little bit more indirect in, for example, undermining the overall context of elections, of suggesting, for example, that these elections are not worthwhile, that they are not necessary, for example. So what we call voter suppression, so keep voters away from this process and exercising their rights and also their possibilities. And there's a third level that is a very technical one of interference also in these election procedures. And on all these three fronts, we need to be prepared with very clear structures, with very clear procedures also good exchanges. But let me maybe add, it's really important not to fall into the trap of looking at this risk already as a sort of, let's say, self-fulfilling prophecy, that there will be manipulation in our elections and that it is anyway not necessary to vote because they will be manipulated. This is, of course, not the case. We have a risk that we have to deal with, and what we are doing in Canada, in the European Union, and also together with our partners, is to prepare for this, to manage the risk, and to have the structures and procedures in place to deal with this. We look at the impact of disinformation on democracies. The biggest threat that we have is that it is a slow process of undermining trusts, of undermining cohesion in our societies, in our social fabric, in amplifying diversions, polarization that will eventually or possibly lead to destabilization. This is the biggest threat. And it's also played like this. And we have enough evidence that this is always kind of an underlying tone in many of the campaigns that we have been seeing. And that's why we need to have a good response to this, but also a balanced response so that we don't overshoot the aim and start to react too much and damage something which is so important for our liberal democracies, and that is freedom of speech. I think we have good approaches to do this. We have good instruments to do this. Yes, there still needs to be a lot of work needs to be done, but this is something that each and every government should take very seriously, and we should have this as a societal issue, as a whole of society challenge and approach. We should also keep in mind that as much as AI, artificial intelligence, generative AI tools may be a problem in the future, AI might also be, at least to a certain extent, be the solution.